we are going to discuss a poem called Small Town and the River, which is written by Mamang Dai. Mamang Dai is a female poet from the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. So you can understand she is an Indian poet writing with a northeast Indian sentiment, and in her poems, which are actually quite popular in Indian English literature, she is basically presenting the landscape, both the internal landscape as well as the external landscape of Northeast India. You know, Northeast India is rich in its natural beauty, and the poets who belong to this region, not just the poets, the literary artists, including the dramatists, the novelists who belong to this region, they have always highlighted the natural resources of the region, the natural beauty of the region as a part of their consciousness, as a part of their writings and their works. So Mamang Dai also, as a poet from the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh, highlights the beauty of the state along with the life in that particular corner of India, the secluded northeastern region, in this particular poem, The Small Town and the River. So this poem belongs to an anthology that is called The Rivers, written by the same poet Mamang Dai. We will start discussing the poem. Small towns always remind me of death. So the poem starts with rather a very strong affirmation, a very strong statement. According to the poet, small town brings to her the idea of death. Now, this is a discussion, this is a point that is open to interpretation. There can be different ways to interpret this line. First of all, we can interpret it in a way that the small towns of India have a very leisurely lifestyle. Unlike the big cities of Mumbai or Kolkata, Delhi, where the people are always running, they are always in a hurry to earn their living, the small towns have less opportunities of earning and a more settled lifestyle, a more casual lifestyle. So perhaps that is the reason, because of its lack of excitement, lack of enthusiasm, lack of hyperactivity, that the poet is saying that the small towns remind her of death. But there can be other meanings also, there can be other significance that can be drawn from the line. It can also be interpreted that in a small town, the people are quite close knit. Unlike in the big cities, the people in the small town are always living in a very close community space. They are very close to each other. The neighborly feelings, that is a very important part of our Indian culture, is still very much visible in the small towns of India. And that is why whenever some mishap happens in some family, whenever some death occurs, the news travels throughout the town and the people offered their condolences to their neighbors. So in the small towns, the news of death spreads quite quickly, and the whole town, the at least if not the whole town, the immediate neighborhood condolences with the family. They come close to the family as if the neighbors are family, a part of their extended family. So this kind of connection, this kind of relation is still existent in our small towns, Indian small towns. And perhaps that is why, because these kind of news about somebody dying in the locality, in the neighborhood, is quite common, so our poet is telling that small towns remind her of death. So as I said, this line is open to various interpretations. Now she comes to her hometown. My hometown lies calmly amidst the trees. It is always the same in summer or winter, with dust flying or the wind howling down the gorge. So in this particular line, we see a representation of the poet's hometown. As I told you in the introduction, that Mamang Dai is a poet who belongs to Arunachal Pradesh. So she is describing her life in the town of Pasighat. You need to remember this, that she was born in the town of Pasighat in East Siang district of Arunachal Pradesh. So she says that in my hometown, that is Pasighat in Arunachal Pradesh, the lifestyle is quite calm and without much excitement, enthusiasm. She says that the town lies calmly surrounded by the trees. Northeast is known for its natural beauty, it is known for its forests. So, thankfully, the forested regions of the Northeast in the hills are not yet disturbed by the greed of human beings. And that is why our poet says that her hometown, that is Pasighat, is surrounded by the trees and it has a calm and quiet, soothing tempo of life. And she also says that it is all the same. There is not much variation in the life of the people. Whether it is the summer or the winter, maybe the temperature will definitely vary, the geographical conditions will definitely vary, but the life of people is almost the same. And this is not just about a particular town in the northeast of India. If you see carefully, any town, whether it is the imaginary town of Malgudi of R.K. Narayan or any other town, small town in India, the speed of life, the tempo of life is almost similar throughout the country. The people have their own festivals, their own celebrations, their own different distinct culture, and they live in a close-knit community surrounding. So our poet says that there is very less variation between summers or winters. That means the years pass by as if it is all the same. No adventure, no thrill. Whatever was going on in the last year will continue in the next year. So there is a sense of continuity in the small towns of India. And then she gives some more descriptive expressions like dust flying and wind howling down the gorge. So it's quite dusty according to the poet, and then the wind also blows. Sometimes the wind blows at quite a high speed down the gorge. The gorge is a kind of valley, a deep valley between the mountains, generally cut by the river, is called a gorge. So because Arunachal Pradesh is actually covered with mountains, so there are many gorges, there are many valleys in the region. So the wind howling means the wind passing, making a very loud noise through the gorges. So that is this first stanza is like a description of the town to which our poet belongs. So in particular, she is referring to the town of Pasighat in Arunachal Pradesh, but in general, we can relate this description to the life in any other small town in India, which has a very chilled out, a very casual way of living. Coming to the second stanza, just the other day someone died. So we are getting a connection between the first stanza and the second stanza, because in the first stanza the poet says that the small towns always remind her of death, and in the second stanza she opens the stanza by saying that she got the news of someone dying in her town. I told you that people know each other in the small towns quite well. They are quite connected to each other, and that is why the news of someone dying spreads quite quickly in the region. In the dreadful silence we wept, looking at the sad wreath of tube roses. So because of that close-knit community in the small towns, the neighbors who are almost like the family members, they visited the family of the death, and to offer their condolences, to show their grief at the loss of a member of their town, they all cried silently. all of them were present there, and they expressed their grief by crying silently. And they also presented wreaths of tuberoses. Tuberoses are basically the flowers of Rajnigandha. You must have seen in our region also, when someone dies, because of its white color, Rajnigandha is one of the most common flower that is offered to the dead body. Because of the white flower, because of the fragrance, it is quite popular during the funeral ceremonies in India. And what is a wreath? A wreath is a garland. You must have seen that these are basically circular garlands, are particularly called wreaths. But the poet can mean the normal Rajnigandha garlands also that are offered to the dead bodies in India. So somebody died, their family members offered the Rajnigandha garlands to the dead body, and the local people from the town came to the house, offered their condolences and shed their tears in sympathy to the dead. Life and death, life and death. Only the rituals are permanent. So, life in this earth keeps on coming and going. This is a mortal world, and whoever is born is bound to die. So the poet is repeating the expression life and death, life and death. So this is quite a common feature, and that is why she had said at the beginning that small towns remind her of death, that new life is born, that happy news also travels quickly in the village, in the small town. Similarly, somebody has died, an old person, an old citizen of the village has died, and that news also travels quite quickly. So in between this happy and sad incidents of birth and death, the life of the people in these small towns keep on passing. The rituals, the ritual of mourning, the ritual of offering funeral, the ritual of offering the wreath and shedding the tears, they continue. But the people, they come and go. Human life come and go, but the traditions, they continue generation after generation. So the poet says the rituals are permanent. Now our poet is taking a complete turn in the poem, and she is now speaking of the river. So this is like a twist in the poem, and she was speaking about human beings, about the life of the people in her small town, about the death of the people in her small town in the first and the second stanza. In the third stanza, the poet is speaking about the river which flows by the small town of Pasighat. She says, the river has a soul. So you see there is a similarity in the first, second, third, fourth stanzas. The first sentence of each of these stanzas are like an assertion, an assertive statement. The first stanza opened with the poet saying that small towns always remind her of death. The second stanza opens as she confesses that just other day somebody died. The third stanza opens with a different type of idea, where the poet says the river has a soul. Now, this is obviously a personification. You can easily identify that. The poet is personifying the river as a human character, because soul is something that can be present only in the human beings, in the living creatures. We do not associate a soul with a river, but our poet assumes, our poet says that the river is also a living being. It has a soul. In the summer, it cuts through the land like a torrent of grief. So this river passes through the land, passes through the mountains of Arunachal Pradesh, but like a torrent of grief. Now here you need to understand that these are the rivers which are mostly rain fed, and therefore they have their full volume of water, particularly in the rainy season. They are the hilly rivers, the mountain rivers. So they have a good amount of water only in the rainy season. In the summer, the river becomes a narrow channel. It is no longer a huge river, which it is during the other season, during the rainy season. In the remaining time, it becomes a narrow channel. So our poet is saying that in the summer, the river passes like a torrent of grief. So here we need to understand what is the meaning of torrent of grief. This expression is quite important. Torrent normally means a strong and fast moving stream of water. Now here our poet is comparing the river flowing in its narrow channel to the teardrops coming from the eyes of a person. Because there has been a death, and because these kind of deaths are so common in the small town, so our poet says that just like a teardrop will quickly pass from the eyes through the cheek and fall down, the river also passes through the mountain and the plains of the land. So she is comparing the river to a torrent of grief or to a teardrop. Sometimes I think it holds its breath, seeking a land of fish and stars. Now because the river has been personified, so the river can have a soul and the river can also have its breath. When do you hold your breath? You hold your breath when you are expectant of something, when you are expecting something to happen. So that is why our poet says that sometimes she thinks that the river is anticipating something. The river is thrilled about something. It is holding its breath in desire of a land of fish and stars, in desire of some mythical land, maybe the heaven. So the poet says that sometimes she feels the river also wishes to go to some mythical land. Just like in India, we have a belief that after a person dies, his soul or her soul starts a journey to the world of the unknown, to the world of the sky, the stars. So maybe the river also sometimes anticipates that one day it will also die and it will go to the world of the stars, the world of heaven. Again, in the next stanza, the poet opens with the same line, the river has a soul. It knows, stretching past the town, from the first drop of rain to dry earth and mist on the mountain tops, the river knows the immortality of water. Now this stanza becomes quite important because here the poet is contrasting the mortality of human beings with the immortality of nature. So though the river might sometime anticipate that it will also die like a human being and its soul will also go to the heaven, but the river knows it very well that it will have to stretch past the town. It will keep on passing from the town again and again. It will have no end because the life of nature is eternal. The mountains, the rivers, the seas are all eternal. But the man who comes in this world is mortal. He comes for a few days, he lives his life, and then he dies and his soul vanishes in the world of the stars. But the river will keep on flowing. Maybe in the summer season its channel has become a bit narrower, but as soon as the drop of rain will fall on the dry earth, as soon as the monsoon approaches, once again the mountains will bring water to the river will be filled with water, and its life, its journey will continue in full bloom, in full power. So our poet says that the river knows the immortality of water. The water, you know, you have studied in your junior classes, there is something called the water cycle. The water from the seas and the oceans, they evaporate and become water vapor. Then they reach in the upper layers of the sky, they condense and become cloud. And when the air is no longer able to hold on that moisture, it comes down in the form of precipitation, either rainfall or snowfall or dewdrop. So water goes from this earth and then comes back to the earth, and therefore water of the river is immortal. Maybe in the summer season there can be a little bit of water in the river, but otherwise in the remaining seasons there is adequate amount of water again coming back to the river. So this cycle of less water and more water keeps on continuing ages and ages, centuries and centuries. So the river is immortal. It is an agent of nature. In contrast to the river, the people who live beside it are mortal. They live for a limited time, and after their time is over, they leave this earth and go to the world of stars. Coming to the next stanza, a shrine of happy pictures marks the day of childhood. The poet says that childhood, whether it is in the small towns or anywhere else, is like a shrine of happy picture. That means the childhood is considered to be the most blessed time in the life of man. Childhood is pure. Childhood is divine. It is the time when we are closest to our Maker. So, our poet says that childhood is a time which is holy, which is divine. What is a shrine? A shrine is a place of worship. A shrine is a place where people go to offer their prayers to a god or a holy figure. So, our poet compares childhood to a shrine, a holy place, which is filled with happy pictures, happy memories. But small town grows with anxiety for the future. But as the childhood passes, comes the adolescence, the youth. This time in the small towns, life becomes full of anxiety, full of worries, whether you will get a good living, whether you can make your life a successful one or not. So our poet says that childhood is a very happy time, but once that childhood, the phase of childhood passes and man enters into the next phase of youth, the small town life is quite an anxious one, quite a scary one. Obviously, you can understand that there is very less opportunity available for a livelihood in the small towns. Very less jobs are available. That is why more and more people leave these small towns and come to the big cities in search of jobs. So that is why the people in the small town, they grow up with anxiety for the future. What will happen to them in the future? The dead are placed pointing west. When the soul rises, it will walk into the golden east, into the house of the sun. Now the poet is referring to a local belief, a myth, that if you keep the head of the dead body towards the west, pointing the western direction, then if the dead body wakes up, the soul from the dead body comes out, it will face the east. So if your back is towards the west, obviously you will stand up, you will wake up facing the east. So if you are facing the east, the soul, when it rises up, it will go towards the west. But if you are pointing towards the west, the soul, when it goes up, when it comes out of the body after the death, it will move towards the east. And that is more auspicious. Why? Because east is the land of the rising sun. See, here we get a slight connection with the state to which our poet belongs. She also lives in the easternmost state of India, which is Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal means the state of the rising sun. So, rising sun is always a symbol of life, a symbol of divinity. The sun rises from the heaven. So, the east is the world of God, the world of heaven. And the west is the direction where the sun sets. So it is the direction of darkness. So if the dead body of a person is kept in such a way that it is pointing towards the west, then when the soul comes out of the dead body, it will directly go to the east, to the golden east, the house of the sun, the world of God. In the cool bamboo, restored in sunlight, life matters like this. So bamboo has a very close association with Northeast. It is a very important part of their life. They make various kind of handicrafts with it. Many times their houses are built with bamboo sticks and shoots. They eat bamboo. So bamboo is a very important part of the life of people. And our poet says, under the shade of the cool bamboo, in the sunlight, soft sunlight of the east, life goes on like this, between one death and another death. A person dies, people go and offer their condolences, come back home, and then again another person in the town will die and they will again go to offer their condolences. This is how under the shade of the bamboo, life continues to go on. In small towns by the river, we all want to walk with the gods. So the poet says that in the small towns by the river, the people have all one desire, that after their death they should go to heaven and they should be blessed by the love of God. They should be with God. You know that Arunachal Pradesh is dominated by Buddhism, and in Buddhist belief also the soul cannot be destroyed. Once a person dies, the soul is freed from the body and it gets moksha. So moksha is a very important concept, and exactly that concept has been referred here in the last couplet of the poem. The poet says that people in these small towns survive in the hope of moksha. They do not have any high ambitions of earning billions and setting up empires. They do not have huge fantasies about life. They only dream that they should get moksha at the end of their life. They should go to the house of God, walk with gods after they die. This is how the people pass their life in the small towns by the river. So as I said at the beginning, this is a poem that is taken from River Poems. The poem is not very difficult, not very complicated to understand, but you need to realize that as a poet of the northeastern India, the sensibility of the northeast has been beautifully reflected in the poem. The landscape of northeast, the mountains, the bamboo, the forests, the river have all figured out in this poem. They are a very important part of the human existence in northeast India. And that identity of man evolving around the natural objects has been beautifully presented. Also, the theme of eternity versus mortality, eternity of nature like the river and the mortality of man has been contrasted in this poem. So that's all for this poem. Thank you.